What's up, guys? It's your boy Big Bank Frank, you know what I'm saying? I need a haircut. Bad. I only get one today or tomorrow for sure. I need that shit bad. And I'm sorry I've been gone for so long, whatever. Apologize for that. Did a little interview with my boy Birdman, you know what I'm saying? That came out pretty good. We're gonna do part two soon. I'm probably gonna have him on my channel too or something. I don't know. I didn't even know if I was gonna keep recording stuff because I kept trying to upload stuff and it wouldn't work. So I got like super discouraged. But anyways, I just I felt compelled to make a video today. Uh, so yeah, couple quick shout outs. Shout out to my boy Birdman Martins. You know what I'm saying? That goes without saying. Shout out to my homeboy Sleepy. Shout out to my homegirl Vanessa. Shout out to free everybody. You know what I'm saying? Free my boy Andrew. You know what I'm saying? Free my boy Macer. Free Fabian. Free everybody. All right, now let's get to the fucking story. So where we had left off, my uncle, I can't even remember. It's been so long, I don't even know. But I think my uncle was like getting out of his car, walking into his apartment, right? Well, he's walking into his apartment. There's these dudes waiting for him. They got machine guns. So they ask him, "Hey, do y'all know Dust?" I don't know. Remember what the agent's name was? The fucking undercover motherfucker's name was. I think it was like Dusty or some name like that. Like, hey, you know a guy from the radio named Dusty? They tell him in Spanish. And my uncle was like, oh shit. And then they're like, hey, we're gonna need you to come with us real quick. And right after he says that, my uncle takes a swing at the guy. But as he takes a swing at the dude, he gets fucking dropped. And the dudes had machine guns and shit. So like, my uncle doesn't even know if he connected the punch or not. He just said as soon as he fucking went to punch the dude that asked him to go with him, he got fucking dropped. And he got dropped and they beat the shit out of him while he was on the floor too. I mean, they didn't beat him that bad, but they roughed him up and then they threw him in a van with a fucking potato sack over his head. Sorry, I keep moving the camera around. They put like a potato sack or a bag or something over his head so he couldn't see where he was going. They drove him in a van. Keep in mind he's in Monterrey, Mexico, right? So they drove him in a van and they drove him north. He didn't know at the time that they were driving north, but they were. He would kind of find out later that they were driving north, and they're going toward the direction that guy who he burned, uh, you know. It turns out the guy was a DEA agent, right? We'll get into that. A DEA agent, undercover, right? But he was a crooked one, and he was burning people too, and he was selling dope too, and he was super, he got super rich from it. I want to see if I can find an article about him because I'm pretty sure he ended up getting caught later, the DEA agent, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up and I'll post the article if I can find it. But he was in the Laredo area, and that's a very hot area because it's right on the border, So they gotta have DEA right there, and FBI too, you know. And yeah, because a bunch of shit coming over the border, a bunch of like foreigners, when something happens to an American in Mexico, they gotta contact the FBI. They don't really have anyone to contact, and But you get the idea. So they're driving him. They're going north, right? He's in the van. He has no idea where he's going. He's driving on the road, but then he realizes it starts to get all bumpy and stuff like that. So he knows he's off road, And I don't even know if he knew, like at all where he was. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he had any fucking clue. Right. So he said in his sense of time is also distorted. He has no idea. Something that's real long could seem real short. Something that's real short could seem real long, or he just doesn't have he not able to look at his watch. He has no frame of reference. He's not able to look at his watch, and he's got a potato sack over his head, so he can't really. I mean, he could probably tell if it's daylight out. I don't even know if he could tell that. But so he just doesn't really know what the fuck is going on, where he is, what time it is. He just know that these guys are fucked up about the situation, and they're like roughing him up on the way. As they're kidnapping him, right? So they finally arrive somewhere about an hour and a half. He says they drove on the street on the road for, you know, a good 30 minutes, and then he said they drove off road for another 30 minutes. So, you know, they take him like about an hour. He like I said, he didn't know exactly how long it was. So he estimates he drove about an hour. And so yeah, a good 30 minutes of that hour was off road. So he knows he's like in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? And they get him down, they get him off the van, they put him in a fucking, like, it's like a warehouse type thing, right? It's a warehouse type thing. They rough him up, and they tie his arms up. Like, the way he explained it to me was kind of weird. I don't even know. They tie his arms up. They bind his wrists, and then there's like a pole underneath his wrist, so he's like hanging. He's like hanging via his wrists, via his tied up wrists. He's hanging on the pole, and his feet are like dangling, right? They have him hanging there because they knocked him the fuck out, you know. When he was in the van, he was all tied up. When they brought him off the van, I think they knocked him out again or something. I don't know. I'm not really sure. He didn't explain how he got from out of the van to being tied up with his fucking wrist like that. But I imagine they had some either they had some very persuasive way of getting him like that, or they fucking just knocked his ass out. And I forgot to tell you, when he was in the van, he shouldered the fuck out of this dude. They were roughing him up and shit, and he got a chance to, because he was tied up, he got a chance to shoulder dude hard. He said he shouldered the fuck out of him, dude. But and then after that, they beat him pretty good. So I think I'm not even 100% sure. Keep in mind, this was like 10 years ago. They told me this fucking story. I think he shouldered the dude, and then they fucking dropped him. And then next thing he knew, he woke up tied up, right? So they tie him up, and they're like whipping him. They're torturing him. They're throwing like shit in his face. They're throwing like beer in his face, and they're pitching beer cans at him. And he was saying they're doing all kinds. They were like twisting the fuck out of his nipples, like practically ripping his nipples. I know, like doing gay shit, like weird shit. But no offense to homosexuals, I don't want to. Whatever. They're doing weird shit to him, bro. They started twisting his nipples, they're fucking pulling his hair, and sounds kind of freaky, but but no, it wasn't like that. It was like torture, right? Fucking knocked one of his teeth out. They're just beating the fuck out of him, right? They're like literally beating the fuck out of him. He's hanging on this fucking pole thing. It's like a horizontal pole, and his wrists are bound, feet are dangling, and he's like a hanging piñata, right? He's like a hanging piñata, and they're fucking beating the shit out of him. They fucking like pull down his pants and shit. They do all kinds of gay shit. They pull down his pants. They get a taser, like one of those long cattle prodders. Look up, if y'all don't know, look up what a cattle prodder is. It's like a long stick with a taser at the end, and they were fucking tasing him with that. They say they tased like his ass, and they tased his dick and his balls and shit. I'm serious, man. They fucking tased his dick and his balls, and electrocuted him. They just literally beat the living shit out of him. It's kind of like the crucifixion of Jesus, almost. Like seriously. I mean, it probably wasn't as bad as the crucifixion of Jesus, but it was slightly similar. He hangs up there for like a week or something like that. You know, like I said, his sense of time was completely distorted, but he's tortured for a good amount of time. They were trying to get information on him. They were trying to figure out who he worked for. I forgot what else. They're mostly trying to figure out who he worked for. He burned that guy on purpose, or if they could try to get a confession out of him that he burned that guy, the DEA agent. I think that was the main thing, trying to get the confession out of him. You know, the fact that, so they have proof that he fucking burned that dude, and they got the right guy. But my uncle, you know, he's a solid ass dude. He's completely opposite of me. I would have been crying. I would have told everything right away. But he's the complete fucking opposite of me. You know, he would just fucking check into a hotel room, like lock the door and just cold turkey break for 5 days in a cheap ass hotel room. Like straight up. My dad used to tell me, he would ask my dad. My dad would go personally rent a cheap hotel for him. You know, he wouldn't give him cash. He would go personally rent the hotel for him, and he would say, "Just break." And my uncle would fucking man up and do it. Dude, I look like a fucking, I don't know. I look like a Hindu with this red dot on my fucking. Anyway, I look like a fucking Arabian, but with this little red dot on my head. I'm, so, I'm sorry, I'm retarded. Anyways, yeah, where was I? So they, yeah, so my uncle's a different breed, man. He's not like me. You know, I'm a little crybaby. You know what I'm saying? I'll get dope sick for like an hour. I start crying. Yeah. He didn't. He was a fucking man's man. He didn't give a fuck, and to him, pain was like nothing. You know. I mean, it wasn't say it was like nothing. You know, this was different. This is like some other shit. You know. So they shocked his dick and his balls. They did all kinds of gay shit. And my uncle had told me for months after they shocked his dick and his balls that he couldn't get a boner. He couldn't get a boner, or he couldn't keep a boner or whatever. And he said, you know, he was getting a lot of, you know, he was a young, good-looking, strong dude. He had a lot of cash. You know what I'm saying? His parents were already wealthy, and he was selling dope on top of so. He was selling dope on top of that shit. He was balling, you know. So he had chicks left and right. And I don't know if you've been to Monterrey, but there's some of the finest girls in the world in Monterrey, Mexico, dude. I'm telling you, dude. They're not that I have anything against like dark brown skin, brown eyed girls. You know, I like those girls. I like girls like that too. But there's a lot of like blonde hair, blue eyed girls, you know, beautiful girls in Monterrey. And my uncle was, you know, fucking a lot of them. But he had said he couldn't get a boner for like 3 or 4 months after that, and you know, the chicks couldn't stand him. He was like, he literally said, "Man, no, not a single bitch could fucking stand me because I couldn't get a boner. You know, girls didn't have the patience. You know, so they couldn't. You know, it really affected him. You know, uh, it affected him mentally. I'm talking about. You know, he ended up getting incarcerated. So he said 3 or 4 months. That was 3 or 4 months after he got out. You know, he did like well, I don't want to get into the story, but so basically, you know, this problem that he had lasted almost like a year. You know, not quite, but he couldn't get a boner for shit. I don't know why I shared you all that personal information about my dead uncle, but just so you could see how extreme this shit was. You know, he got tortured so bad. He was pissing blood, couldn't get a boner for months. You know what I mean? Like, his dick was all fucked up. You know, eventually it healed and shit, but his dick was all fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So he's getting tortured. They're beating the living fuck out of him, right? He's hanging in this warehouse, and they're trying to get him to confess, and they're trying to figure out who he works for, who he's getting his coke from, and stuff like that. They had been doing some surveillance on him, but I guess they didn't know where he was getting it from and whatnot. Whatever. Anyways, you know, I guess what I think happened is like they were able to secure the DEA agent was able to secure a warrant for his arrest, and that's why he was able to. And as soon as he was able to get the warrant, either via indictment or via other means, I think it was via indictment because it was a federal case. So, you know, I really not sure. I'm really not sure if, you know, it was just because it's the DEA agent is working on it doesn't necessarily mean it's a federal case. You know, the feds can arrest you on a state case, and they can assist local PD on state cases and whatnot. You know, U.S. Marshals go and find people all the time that are just wanted, like on murders and stuff like that are not even related to the feds, just state cases. So he didn't tell me whether he picked up a federal case or a state case. I was imagining federal, and I'm pretty sure it was a federal case, you know, because it was a DEA agent, but I don't know about whether he got indicted or not. You know, I'm almost certain it was a federal case. Yeah, like I said, it was like 10 years ago, you know. So they waited till they got the indictment, and then they shipped him back up, right? What they did was after they beat the living fuck out of him, they took him to like a local jail in northern Mexico in some little town, right? They took him there, they booked him, and then they called the U.S. Marshals and say, hey, we got a guy who's wanted in the U.S. He's over here in this county jail. If y'all want him, come get him. And they came and got him the same day or the next day. So my uncle just said he after he was just beaten so bad he couldn't even like see. He was like delirious, and all his energy was gone. Just life was just sucked out of him, right? And he's just laying on the floor in this fucking county jail for a couple hours, and the U.S. Marshals come and get him. And he said he was like relieved for them to come and get him, because he at least knew like probably not going to get tortured, or if he does get roughed up, it's not going to be as bad as these guys roughed him up. I just farted. I don't know. Hopefully y'all could hear the fart on the. I don't know if it went through or not, but I farted pretty loud. Hopefully y'all could hear it. But anyways, so yeah, they come and pick him up from this little, I guess the equivalent of a county jail in Mexico, right? So the guys who kidnapped him took him to this county jail, and then it was already pre-arranged, from this DEA agent what they needed to do. That whole police department was probably, bought by somebody, probably by the crooked DEA agent or whatever, and they could just bring wanted people to that county jail and then get extradited to the U.S. But this was not a formal extradition. This was like an under-the-table shit, and this DEA agent had been getting away with whatever he wanted. So there was no extradition papers. That is key. There was no extradition papers at all. They just like informally extradited him. And my uncle had proof that he was in this county jail. They don't call it county jail in Mexico. I don't know what the fuck they call it. It was like a city jail that they brought him to. They accused him they just charged him with like some bullshit crime, and then called the U.S. Marshals and say, hey, we got a guy who y'all want, who's wanted by the United States. He's a fugitive, so y'all can come pick him up. I'm pretty sure it was a federal case. Right? So they come and pick him up, but they take him to the Webb County Jail. At that time, this is the fucking early 80s, I don't think they had a federal detention center for Laredo. I think what they did have was like a immigration federal detention center, but they didn't have like a proper federal detention center, like the equivalent of a whacking hut. Is what we have here in San Antonio. That's the federal detention center in LA. Ryan Leone was in MDC LA. That's the federal detention center for LA. And there's, they're all throughout the country, but not every city has one. Usually like bigger cities have them, or they'll have one like in the middle of a region, and it'll cover like an entire region. That's usually how they do it. But it's like the equivalent of a county jail, but for the feds. It's where you go before you've been sentenced, or if you've been sentenced to like a small sentence. Yeah, you're awaiting trial or whatever, or if you sign for time in the free world, but you're waiting to catch chain to federal prison, you'll go there too. It's basically the same thing as a county jail, but for the feds. But they didn't have one of those in Laredo at the time. So the federal inmates would be housed in the Webb County Jail. And I'm pretty sure the feds would reimburse the county for the inmates that they held for them. And I think they would pay them more. They would pay like whatever it would cost to house an inmate, they would pay them like 1.5. The federal government would pay that county like 1.5 times what they would normally what a normal inmate would cost. And so the county has incentive to hold. That way, it gives the county incentive to hold federal inmates. And what they do is they house you in the county jail. It'll just say on your paperwork, it'll just say like federal violation. It won't even say what it is usually. At least that's what I found, because my cousin also got arrested, and he was held in the Webb County Jail, and it just said federal violation, and then he got transferred to the feds the next day. It didn't even say what kind of case it was. It was a gun smuggling case. Yeah. So yeah, you can look up. Actually, you can look it up on the. If you want to, go to the BOP website, Bureau of Prisons. Type in Rashid Dieck, like my last name, hyphen. I think it's just Rashid Dieck, but he has two last names. He's from Mexico. Type in RACHID Dieck on the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and you'll find my cousin, right? Uh, he has two last names. His other last name is Kattas, Kattas. Just type in Rashid Dieck hyphen Kattas on Google, and you'll see my cousin, and you'll see his federal indictment, and yeah. But that's not my uncle. It's a different guy. Okay. Matter of fact, I'll probably post a link to my cousin's shit. You know. But on the cool, I think my cousin snitched on the cool. I'm not trying to put him out there, but he only got like a year, so I think he snitched. Anyways, yeah, I'm not trying to get street cred, but like, oh look, my cousin is so cool. Nah, he's probably snitched, dude. I'm not trying to be cool. Yeah, there's nothing cool about that shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he only got like a year in the feds, so he had to have snitched for what he did. But his family was fucking rich too. So, but anyways, back to the subject. I always get off fucking topic, right? So my uncle's in the fucking Webb County jail, waiting, right? Uh, Waiting to see what's gonna happen with this indictment, right? He's all fucked up. He didn't tell me anything about this stay in the Webb County jail. Other than that, it was pretty brief. And by brief, I mean it was like a month and a half or something like that. I don't even know. So as you can tell by me saying that he was only in there a month and a half, it was probably a pretty good outcome, right? Remember I said he didn't have the formal extradition papers. Well, okay, my uncle gets a lawyer. His family's wealthy. Of course, they hire him a badass lawyer. He gets a discovery pack, finds out that guy was a DA agent. Thank God the discovery pack didn't say nothing about him pulling out a gun on him. I don't know why, I don't know why it just didn't say it. He didn't pull out a gun, he just kind of showed it to him. But anyways, I think a cop would be like, oh, he pulled it out and tried to kill me. That's what they do. They fucking lie. The indictment didn't say nothing about that. It just said about the pound of coke. And that it didn't even say about him burning him. It just said they sold him a pound of coke. That's all it said. It didn't say nothing about him it being burned or anything, because essentially it doesn't matter if a little bit of it tests positive, then the whole thing might as well be coke. If you get caught with a brick that's 10% coke, or you get caught with a brick that's pure coke, it's the same charge. If you get caught with street ready heroin and you get caught with Buddha, same charge. No matter what anybody tries to tell you, people that don't know what they're talking about try to say otherwise, but it's not true, right? So I could have 3.9 grams of Buddha, or I could have 4.1 grams of street ready, and I'll get more time for the 4.1 grams of street ready than I will for the 3.9 of Buddha, which everybody knows the 3.9 of Buddha is so much more than the 4.1 of street ready. There's so much more dope in it, but it just goes by weight. It's weird, but yeah. So anyways, yeah, because in Texas over 4 grams, that's when it jumps up to second degree felony. So anyways, my uncle's waiting in the county jail. He gets his discovery. He meets with his lawyer, and the lawyer tells him, where are your extradition papers? I couldn't find them, or something like that. And my uncle was like, I swear to God, I never got them. The lawyer's like, what? Are you serious, bro? No way, bro. Are you serious? I know this judge, and he's like totally gonna drop your case, bro. We went to law school together. If there's no extradition papers, you're good, homeboy. That was my little Ryan Leone impression, that little voice he did. Y'all gotta watch his channel. If y'all don't watch his channel, watch his shit. Way better than mine. But, so, the lawyer's like, dude, with no extradition papers, you're getting off, dude. I know this fucking judge, and he will not, he's very liberal, and he does everything by the book, and he will not cave in to these crooked DEA pieces of shit. And these cops are pieces. Not all cops are pieces of shit, but a high percentage are. And this cop in particular was an extreme piece of shit. He was going around burning people, using his DEA badge to do whatever he wanted, ended up becoming a multi-millionaire. Just burning people, fucking people over, keeping dope, selling dope, doing all kinds of shit. So my uncle was like, fuck this dude. Even though my uncle didn't even know. My uncle didn't even know that he was doing that. But he was still like, fuck this dude. He just had a attitude about him to where my uncle didn't fucking like him, so he burned him. My lawyer says, okay, you're remanded without bond, of course, because if my uncle had a bond, he would have got out. He was rich, you know what I'm saying? So obviously he was remanded without bond, right? But my uncle's lawyer was like, look, sit tight. When we go to court, we're going to explain to them that there was no extradition papers, that you were kidnapped. I'm going to take pictures of your body, and I'm going to present that. You know what I'm saying? So my uncle said they took pictures of him, and they were like, look, this did not happen in the Webb County Jail. You know what I'm saying? So how did it happen? The U.S. Marshals tried to say, oh, well, you know, in the Mexican County Jail, anything can happen, you know, blah, blah, blah. My uncle was like, I was literally there for like a couple of hours, and I was in a holding cell the whole time. Like, yeah, you know, I was kidnapped, blah, blah, blah. And the judge was like, is this true? And where are the extradition papers? There were no extradition papers. So they had no choice but to let my uncle off. The prosecutors were there. The DEA agent was there. And the DEA agent had such a boner for my uncle that he showed up at his first court date. It wasn't even like, you know, trial or plea or nothing. It was just like an arraignment or something. I don't even know. Or I think he showed up to his arraignment and he showed up to his very first court date as well. And yeah, because in the feds, like, you get arraigned like right away, and then. But he said my uncle said that that the dude showed up both times. The arraignment, nothing really happened. I think he just like kind of testified like, hey, you know, he sold a pound of coke and he's running around, you know, the city. He's a flight risk. He's back and forth between Mexico and the United States. He's a flight risk, you know. And then the prosecutor also said shit, you know, basically they're saying, you know, this guy's got money. He's a flight risk. Don't let him out on bond, or it's going to be hard to get him, you know. So we got to keep him. Yeah, we got to keep him in custody, right? So they agreed. They kept him in custody, remanded without bond, and then the next court date, boom, you know, no extradition papers. The U.S. attorney, which is like the equivalent of the district attorney in the state, you know, the U.S. attorney was all pissed off. Oh man, what the? Why did he was kind of mad at the DEA agent too. He's like, why did you, you know, give me a case with no extradition papers, or I don't remember. This is so long ago. I don't remember all the details of it. There was some kind of argument. I don't think that's what it was though. I think it was like, I don't know whose fault it was that he didn't get extradited properly, but my uncle said the agents were all upset. They're like, oh man, all that work, oh man, they threw a fucking tantrum, all that work, blah blah blah, this bullshit. The judge said, hey, no extradition papers, no case, papa, and threw it out. My uncle got released into the free world, and that's how he beat a Fed case. Yeah. Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to the story. It's a little interesting story. Sorry I was gone for so long. Hope everybody's good. I'm going to try to shoot 2 videos today. And y'all take care, man. See y'all later.